Hello, welcome to another week in science fiction with me, Damien Walter, and my good pal, James Warrad.
Hello. How are we doing?
James, how do you describe yourself? You are a writer of space opera, a guardian of hotels, and a wanderer in graveyards. I've seen in the last few days.
Yeah. That sounds like an amazing space opera novel. It's the Guardian of Hotels. Yeah. I work at a hotel. During this lockdown, I've been walking around the place, and graveyards are a good place to have a bit of a walk and walk around. Ironically, walking around the dead protects you from, you're less likely to die these days. So it's not so bad. I'm maybe taking a few photos. I write science fiction novels as well, so there you go. And whatnot, and I keep busy, that's me. and I help run the SF&F site of whom's podcast you're looking at now or listening to now.
Indeed, we are the resident podcast of the Science Fiction and Fantasy group on Facebook, which I set up a few years ago and has suddenly ballooned in size. We've had like dozens or hundreds of people join in the last few days.
Wasn't it?
Yeah, it was non-stop. Every time I looked at my phone, there was more alerts saying another person has joined the group.
Now, were you like me, where you thought, hang on, this is some kind of Russian bot attack or something like that, or some kind of corporate, said lots of people, or did you see it as genuine?
Could be entirely possible. I think the first possibility is that we triggered something in the Facebook algorithm to show us to more people.
Yeah, it's got to be, isn't it?
The posts on the site have been getting more and more response and engagement as well.
Yeah.
So our little community is thriving, and we're gonna talk through the events of the week in science fiction as based on what you've seen. So how has your week in sci-fi been? Has anything leapt out to you, Jim?
Well, not so much leapt as materialized. I think the one that everyone's talking about is the silver obelisks, the what you want to call them, monoliths.
I'm calling them the Kubrickian monoliths.
Yeah, which have gone for a glam rock look because they've gone silver now. So instead of black, less goth, more glam.
So which camp do you fall into? Are you? This is clearly the presence of an alien civilization, or are you? It's just some humans pulling a trick.
Well, if it's aliens, they're some cheap bastards. I mean, that's just, what is it? A piece of steel, 7 foot, whatever. I don't think it's even steel. So yeah, it's got to be humans. Yeah. Carry on. Oh, sorry. Also, the interesting thing is that no one, if it was like random people doing it, you'd think by now someone put their hands up, or maybe we'll see that in the next few days. So they've got to source this material and cut it, and and if it's, I don't know, someone would say somewhere. So I can't help thinking it's like a corporation or something, some kind of media thing.
Multiple people have been cashing in on it. The Southwest Airlines, the American airline, posted a viral tweet because the first of these monoliths was in Utah.
Yes.
And then it disappeared after a few days after it had been discovered. Yeah. And Southwest Airlines posted what looked like a very amusing meme of the silver monolith as a kind of a airline gate sign, a stanchion, and with like the seat numbers, like 32 to 48 written on it. And then just tweeted, sorry guys, we needed it back.
So is it them, or do you think they were just...
then it turned out that they had, in fact, pirated this meme from some poor fellow who'd put it on his Twitter account. And he'd only got about 20 retweets, and they had like 50,000 retweets. But he noticed and he called them out on it. So I think Southwest Airlines are now the first victim of of the monolith aliens, whoever they should be.
That's it. It could be cursed, couldn't it? I mean, even if it is a company that's made them, they might be looking at this now and go, if we announce it's us and say it's, McDonald's or something, we're going to look up. Everyone's going to be let down and angry. So let's just step away and not say anything. So it might actually end up being a mystery made by some corporation who just sort of legged it and went, this is a bad idea. We don't know. But yeah, what do you think?
Well, we had the first one in Utah, and then one popped up in Romania, and that disappeared after a few days. And then I think the third one was in California. But the reporting of the third one in California said that whilst the first one had been deeply rooted in the rocks, the second one was clearly a bit wobbly, and people who went to see it were worried that they'd be able to push it over, which suggests to me it probably wasn't teleported in another dimension. But I like to think that it could have been. Because it's been a tough year. We've had plague, obviously. We've had fire. You remember the fires all across kind of Australia and America.
It feels like a decade ago, doesn't it? Yeah.
We've had locusts, the huge swarm of locusts that ate its way. Yeah. So I think it would make sense for like the burning bush of God to appear, and for this to be like the creator.
Yeah, round things.
So that's what biblically. I want to believe.
Yeah, if we hear the voice of Charlton Heston at some point commanding us, we'll know we're in a 50s biblical epic. So
if we get 10 new commandments for the modern era, God, thou shalt not shitpost on Twitter.
Thou shalt not burn hair, it stinks. I think that's a good enough reason. That's what comes to mind. That'd be something else.
I was trying to think through who it could be, and I did, because the thing you do is you do a quadrant. So on one side of the quadrant, you've got aliens or pan-dimensional beings, or God, something supernatural. Yeah, we're in the other side of the quadrant, you do people, maybe like an artist collective, or it could just be copycatting. Because I have to admit, I've known at least 2 different people who have made crop circles. Just people who live in the conspiracy. Country. Well, I've never made one, but I've been told by people, we've made crop circles, like people who grew up in the Devon countryside or something.
Yeah. So it's not the CIA or the Men in Black or anything then?
Not as far as I know, because people do just...
It's Devon.
Like, if you think of all the effort that people go to like get a viral tweet or to get any kind of attention online or in this world altogether, like if you can get attention for making a crop circle, but then you can never cop to it, you can never claim the attention, and I think maybe that's. But then
you're just some person who pressed down some corn with your feet or whatever they do, a piece of wood or whatever. Yeah, it's not very. Whereas if you don't say anything, you're kind of an alien or a supernatural being, aren't you? It's
you can just watch the. So I guess there's people out there who are enjoying the publicity of whichever airport stanchion they put.
Yes. Yeah.
But then the other things on the quadrant is that, so you've got alien or human, and then super intelligent or super dumb. So it's like, because it could be super intelligent humans, like someone, like a kind of like Watchmen plot for the end of the world, Illuminati conspiracy, or it could be super intelligent aliens, or it could be dumb humans, just some guy who are putting it out there. But my money is on dumb aliens.
No one ever thinks about that, do they? I mean, they've got to have the dumb element, haven't they? I mean, it might not be their navy. It might just be their rednecks or something. No offense to rednecks. It might just be some weekend teenagers borrowing their parents' saucer. That's
it. And we'll catch them at it. And we'll be like, well, can you illuminate the secrets of the universe? And they'll be like, oh, I don't know, mate.
Oh, yeah.
I was just out here like tipping cows.
Yeah, as I say, our first encounter with aliens is some teenage alien doing the equivalent of tipping cows. Oh, that's not a great first encounter. He's like, oh, don't tell my mum. You know, oh, what do we do? You know, but yeah, okay.
I'm going to put a bet on dumb aliens. Then I'll put a $5 on dumb aliens.
Yeah. No, I'll go along with that because I bet a lot of other people are like looking at where all the monoliths are and then trying to calculate where Atlantis is in the middle or the Bermuda Triangle or something. And it's just don't overthink it. Yeah. No, I'm with you on that. Absolutely. Apologies, I got this cat going by me quite regularly. You may notice.
Oh, what's the name of your cat there, Jim?
This is Cleo, and she admits full responsibility for the monoliths. She just wanted more food. So yeah, she's putting a tail up for it. There you go. Look, see.
Well, I was watching my cats this week, and because I'm an entrepreneurial sort, I was thinking to myself, how could I make these cats productive? Because all they do, they sit around and sleep, and they hunt some things, and they eat the food I give them. But if I could find a way, like an app that cats could do, that produce something valuable, I'd be minted.
Well, you want the cats to make the app, or the app involves the cat? You might have trouble.
I have to admit, it's probably beyond a cat to make an app. I'd like to make a cat that could, but like just like an app that the cats could like poke with their paw, and maybe it operated a supercomputer or something.
Oh wow, yeah. You can make like
a cat app.
People would buy the cat into the catanet, you could call it, and people could go online with their various cats, and the cats could email it. Well, you know, tweet each other or just hit things, and it makes another one across the world flash. So the cat hits that, and they're basically talking. The catanet. You saw it here first.
Okay, Jim. I've got a friend who does app development. John, if you're out there, I'm going to contact you about the catanet. I'll split the proceeds with you.
Yeah. My cat needs food. So,
I was totally filling in with nonsense there whilst I found another story to talk about. 80s Mad Max ripoffs.
Oh God, yeah! Oh man, they're amazing. I used to watch them as a kid.
I didn't even realise such things existed.
Oh, my friend. They're a school. They're the best things since the Renaissance. There was a massive cash in on Mad Max in the 80s, especially Mad Max 2, the Road Warrior, as you call it in America. And they're mainly Italian, and that's one of the beauties. Some of them, they're using Italian cars like Fiats or whatever, covering them in spikes. It's amazing. I've got the one, but it's brilliant, and it's all dubs, and everyone's kind of not like that, absolutely. I loved Fury Road, but I was kind of let down. There wasn't a sort of a wave of Fury Road rip-offs from Italy and various places, but it didn't happen. But they're something else. They're of their time in many ways, but
it makes sense to have the Italians do it, because better be careful how I phrase this. But the Italians have kind of clung on to Mad Max hair. Long past it being fashionable in the 80s.
Is that the case? Wow.
Well, yeah, I was in Sicily. Well, this was a couple of years ago now, but I assume it hasn't changed. And Sicily was definitely still in the early 90s, maybe shell suits, and a bouffant hair. Yeah, pre-Instagram days.
Yeah, I imagine that's all changed now. But that's wow. Yeah, if you want the Mad Max action, get down to Sicily. You heard it here first. But I'd recommend it is, of course, available on Amazon Prime. There's a whole set of them. I've been going through the whole thing, and it's incredible. And Roger Corman had a go as well. At it. It's just a very cheap kind of action film to make, isn't it? You just got to get some old bangers some old cars, stick a few nails on them, give someone an eye patch, a well-known actor an eye patch making the villain, and your quid's in. You know, it must have been a blessed relief.
Kevin Costner tried twice to make his own Mad Max. Waterworld, that was bad. Yeah, it's bad. Dennis Hopper is the villain there, and The Postman. I never even made it through.
No, I didn't even make it to The Postman. It's his mistake was he put money into it. He should have just been happy driving around in a Fiat with a plastic robot arm or something. You know?
That's what people want, really, isn't it? That's what people want. I mean, Mad Max 3 has basically defined the shorthand for talking about the post-apocalypse. Yeah. So, like, if someone suggests, like on Twitter, like a political policy that's clearly going to destroy the world, then you say to them, good luck in Thunderdome.
Yeah, basically, it is. Yeah, anti-entity and all that. That's probably got the most world building out of all of them, isn't it? I suppose. I mean, 2's just basically a bunch of people being harassed by punks in ass chaps or leather trousers. But 3's, you've got a whole civilization going on, haven't you? With the dome and the entertainment idea.
It kind of mirrors Rambo. In my head, the first Rambo movie and the first Mad Max movie, they're kind of like gritty political commentary.
Yes,
And then the second and third ones get increasingly over the top and theatrical.
Yeah. But the difference is with the Mad Max series, I am willing to go with it. It's like, okay, let's do this. There's a dwarf on the back of a giant with all these weapons. Let's have it. You know. Yeah. Whereas with Rambo, it's just a Reaganite fantasy, isn't it? It gets more and more.
I'm amazed it didn't get a reboot in the age of Trump. I mean, clearly it's too late.
Yeah.
But you'd have thought the Rambo franchise would be the one that Trump would want Hollywood to make for him.
Yeah. But wasn't there a Rambo film in the last few years?
Oh, God, there wasn't, was there?
Yeah, he's like on a farm. Being this old guy, and then some guys have a go at his daughter or something, or his son. I don't know. I never watched it.
Let's just pretend it didn't happen.
Let's just pretend it didn't happen. Just watch Italian Mad Max films.
We're sci-fi people. We can just put that into its own alternate timeline.
It's
along with most of the rest of Sylvester Stallone's output, I think.
Yeah.
There you go. I've lost probably at least half of our fan base there, but
the new boys have just come in and walk straight out again. But you could say the rest. The first Blood, the first film is real. The rest is fanfic, and you could probably say about a lot of Rocky. Rocky 4 is fanfic, surely. It's fighting I cannot beat him. He is like a rod of iron. All that business, fun film.
Well,
Sorry, the cats. We'll get a bit of earthquake tremor because the cats.
Cat shake. To go with the catanet, we've got the cat shake.
You're getting I'm having trouble with my catanet. Oh, you've got a bit of cat shake there, sir. There you go.
Let's throw us into the next sci-fi related story. Ready Player 2 was published about a week ago now to mixed opinions on the internet. Went straight to number 1 on Amazon. It's still hanging in there at number 17. And that's it's or like hardback or Kindle edition. And it got, every media outlet that ever says anything about books or sci-fi said something glowingly positive about Ready Player 2. And like all of the well-known writers who are on Twitter, they said like pointedly non-committal things about it. Like, I'm really, really happy my pal Ernie's got his new book out today, without saying they'd read it and thought it was the greatest book ever.
Well, it's a book.
So have you read Ready Player 1? Did you watch the movie?
My interest is the same as that Rambo 5 film or whatever is on a farm. I don't know. I haven't read the first or this new one, so I can't say. But I don't imagine it's Tolstoy. You know what I mean?
We can pretty much know for sure it's not Tolstoy, because as soon as the Kindle edition came out, somebody, Jacob Mercy on Twitter, posted extracts of it to his Twitter account, along with some commentary, saying Ready Player 2 is everything I dreamed it would be, and then proceeded to tear it apart as a book. And the writing is bad. Even Ernie Cline's fans don't call him a good writer, but they say
that's not what they're in for.
It's a fun story instead.
So he's a storyteller.
A storyteller. But you wonder how good a storyteller you can be if your writing reads like a long blog post about the novel that you would write if you could write a novel. That's how Ready Player reads. To me.
My God.
I'm trying to restrain myself because I did, because it started to get very vindictive responses from most people who weren't in some way or another paid to promote it. And especially on Twitter. And at one point there were like thousands of tweets on the hashtag. And it's got to be difficult for someone like Ernest Cline. Because what do? Do you just not go on Twitter for the next 3 months or ever search your own name? Because what's being said is like horrific in many ways. I don't know how I would feel.
Your cash.
If you've got the money, because he's made a lot of money from the Ready Player franchise, the book and the film, you'd assume. But I did do a thread like talking about why people were so offended by it, which I think is like a multi-tier cake. And the first thing is that it's called a science fiction novel, but I think it's a new kind of thing, and it's a gamer novel. And really, it's less related to the science fiction writing world and community, who largely hate it, and more to the gamer culture. Well, and gamer culture is its own culture, and it's huge. Of course, there's like billions of people, and video games are the main thing that they do now. And this might be the only book that they have read that relates to gaming.
So he's filled a market
for them.
Yeah. Is it? I mean, is it not just gamers, but gamers of a certain age? Because I haven't read or seen any of this, but I keep. There's like a lot of sort of Generation X kind of interests, like Ghostbusters, the original Ghostbusters, and The Shining, and stuff like that, isn't there? I don't know how he got the copyright and all of that, but it's all in there, isn't it? It's in the film. So is it a mixture of both these things, or?
Well, you can mention all of that stuff in a book, which is the advantage of a book. So you can't be sued for including the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man in your book, but you can't use any of those things in the film. So it's my understanding that the film only has characters in that they could franchise kind of through Steven Spielberg, because it's the Spielberg. What's the name of Spielberg's studio?
DreamWorks, is it?
DreamWorks,
Yeah. You couldn't really.
I carried on kind of like trying to think through why, because so there's people who love it, who are gamers, and it's talking about gaming. And then there's people who hate it because it's like all of the worst tendencies of science fiction, like being pushed back to us. Like the idea that sci-fi people are all kind of like alienated nerds who just live in virtual worlds and want to escape into them forever. And also that sci-fi became like this thing that was about marketing stuff to nerds.
Yeah, it feels very marketed. I'm saying,
it just feels like a big marketing engine, basically. So I can understand why people were so generally venomous about it as a book, and I had to admit to sharing in their venom somewhat. But for an individual writer, it feels a bit unfair. No matter how much money Ernest Cline has made, I can't imagine what it would be like to see that kind of response to what you're writing. And it was twofold as well, because he got attacked over the first one, because the first one had like the central character is male, and he's got like a cute female character he's infatuated with, and it's all of the like kind of like male centric tropes. And he was attacked by what some people would call the woke people for that.
I see. Yeah.
Now this time, having gathered a huge audience of like 13-year-old gamers, he has now made the sequel very woke, allegedly, and is now being attacked by his core audience for you can't win, really.
Oh God, yeah, no, yeah. I guess he just should have just leaned into it. Absolutely dreadful.
That's Jim and Damo's advice to you, Ernie.
Yeah.
Double down on the misogynism in the third one.
Yeah, just double down in the. I don't know. It's a thing, and I wish him well. I guess. You know, it ain't Tolstoy, but very likely Tolstoy's in it, battling Optimus Prime somewhere.
that one I would read. Tolstoy Transformer Hunter.
We'd never get the rights, but it's certainly some fanfic to consider, you know. But I don't get, because it's like, I'm guessing it's like set in 2160 or sometime like that, right? The actual books, the Ready Play, but everyone's into like 1980s, 1990s culture, which is what I don't get. It'd be like us being into the 1930s or something, you know, which I guess we kind of are a bit politically.
Actually, and I think our next story might link us all the way back to the 1930s. But before we get to that, I won't segue cleanly. Instead, I will say that the reason apparently all of the characters are into 80s stuff is because in the future it's out of copyright, so they can watch it for free. Whereas everything else has been monetized.
Yeah.
But to take us back,
Fitzgerald, the kids on TikTok aren't reading them, are they?
Yeah, that hasn't happened, has it?
Yeah.
Which is sad.
Maybe.
Which is sad. I'd like to see the TikTok Great Gatsby.
Yeah. Who wouldn't?
So, sad news. We've had a few passings.
Yep.
The actor, in fact, from Mad Max Fury Road.
Yeah. Underrated guy.
He'd had a few cult roles out there.
He was also in Mad Max 1. He was the baddie in that as well.
Ah, okay.
The toe cutter, and he's Immortan. So he's really defined the Mad Max world in terms of villains. He aside from Tina Turner, and he's also in a couple of episodes of Farscape. So he did. He's done a lot of great. He helped define our post-apocalypse, I suppose. So it's to him. Maybe may he ride shiny in Valhalla, or whatever the phrase is.
Well, he was definitely the lipless face of the post-apocalypse when Fury Road came out. I hope he had perfectly fine lips in real life.
Yeah, I'm sure he did. They were lush and wonderful.
And also, I believe Darth Vader has left us.
Yeah, David Prowse.
David Prowse.
Illness. Yeah. It's the body of Vader. Originally going to be the voice, but legend has it they couldn't have a Southwest Cornish evil Dark Lord. You're a rebel and a traitor.
I'm your father, Luke. I can't do accents.
Have a glass of cider.
I've always wondered how he felt about that, because clearly that was his biggest role. Although he was also the Green Cross Code man, which I only knew from the details after he died. But he was the most iconic character in 20th century cinema, but could walk down the street largely without being recognized by people.
Maybe that's a good thing. You know, can I actually do a bit of a not a shout out, but a claim to fame?
Yes.
I've a vague memory. I was 5. The Green Cross code man, who I should say for our international viewers, was taught you about kids how to cross the road, and he was dressed in a leotard with a big cross on it. It was the 80s, and he came to my hometown, and me and a lady called, or a girl then called Donna Lever, who I'm now working with at the hotel. He walked us both across, and the Syston paper took photos of it. So somewhere, and she's got the photo, I haven't. There is a photo of us being walked around by David Prowse in a leotard.
So you were an early Padawan adept of the leader of the dark side.
Yeah. I can cross the road backwards. Such is my skills.
But I don't know if this story is true. But there has been like a long-term rumor that David Prowse was also not allowed to know what the script was for Star Wars, because in the first movie he had blabbed some details, either outside the set or to people on set who weren't supposed to know, like things about the films coming out. So when he did like the iconic scene with Mark Hamill in Empire Strikes Back, and I'm your father, Luke, he didn't know what was being said.
So what, he was just shaking his hand?
Yeah. And it was later dubbed in. And he didn't know why Mark Hamill started screaming and attempted to commit suicide.
Well, yeah. For him, it was a David Lynch movie or equivalent. That's crazy. What if he actually did say something like, set the timer on the video or something? Or I don't know what. That's crazy.
Well, I can't attest to the factuality of that, but I have heard it a number of times from different sources. And it's, it seems to make sense.
Yeah. I say the guys, I mean, we put a lot of emphasis on talking with acting, of course, but you think of Vader, the power of him, the muscular, that costume could easily look silly,
Yes,
and it gives it a certain power. When he's pointing and he's marching, when he first appears out that's the greatest villain ever. He's when the stormtroopers come through, it gives the stormtroopers a little bit of time to do their fanfare, and he's through, and he's not, like that. I feel fantastic.
I'm guessing the helmet couldn't move independently from the shoulders.
I think on the first one, no, it couldn't.
So I think he had to probably turn like that. Turn two people, which would make him a pretty absurd figure.
Yeah.
In real
no
life.
One would say, but no one would say shit. You know what I mean? But by the third one, Return of the Jedi, he looks guilty when spoilers, when Luke's been electrified by Palpatine, Emperor, and that look of guilt he gives is really quite impressive considering he's wearing a bucket on his head. It's like that, isn't he? So hats off to the guy. And he probably saved my life. He taught me how to cross the road. It's
David Prowse, you will be missed.
Will be missed.
But we've also lost Ben Bova.
Yeah.
Ben Bova at the age of 88, also COVID-related pneumonia. And he was, a very, very famous writer and editor in his days. Have you read any of the Ben Bova output? I have to admit that I have not. Or not that I remember.
No, he turned up in a lot of stuff with short stories. I've read some of his short stories in the mix. I started on one of he did a set of fantasy books, and I started on one of those. But I think, I don't know, I had too many books going on. But he meant a lot to people of a certain generation, didn't he? I mean, he's that, I tell you what it is, what was it now? He was actually one of the people who worked on the first satellites that America built just after Sputnik. And I think he also worked on the shield for the capsule coming down the Apollo mission. So he's in that sort of rare group of people who are, 20th century figures who were both writing science fiction and were part of the space race, which you don't get now outside of China.
Well, that's funny because in his younger days, I saw just one headshot of him and thought to myself, he looked quite a lot like Carl Sagan.
As well.
Also a similar also a similar figure.
Maybe they cover for each other. It's yeah. Well, actually, I mean, he took over from the Looney guy, didn't he? Astounding and all that. Campbell.
Mhm.
And,
Campbell. Yeah,
that guy.
Well, that was my thinking about why it was kind of so significant and why it takes us all the way back to the 1930s. So I finally made it to the segue, because so he was 88. So he was what, like when was he born?
It was 80 years ago. This is guys, this is a great
sign. So it was like 32.
System.
I think 1932 maybe. So Astounding magazine was set up. I'm really going into my memories here. I think in 1930, and then after a few years, it went bust, and it got bought out by a new editor, and that editor made it like the central science fiction pulp magazine when it was called like Astounding Stories of Staggering Wonder or something. And then John W. Campbell was published in Astounding, and that's where he broke through as writer, and then he became the editor. And then it's when John W. Campbell takes over as the editor, that is the beginning of the golden age of science fiction.
Yeah.
And then, so someone like Ben Bova, he was the generation of people who were kids growing up reading the golden age of science fiction. And then when those people came through in like the 60s, 70s, and then the 80s, because that's the era that Ben Bova was the editor of Analog, which is the name that Astounding was changed to.
Oh, yes.
So it's like, in a way, the last connections to the golden age of science fiction are now leaving us.
Yeah.
Those people who read it as children and were fans of it.
Yeah, but then it becomes history, I guess, isn't it? It's spooky thought. Everything moves on. Nihil mutandis, whatever it is, I forget now. It's too early for Latin in the morning, but everything changes. Nothing is lost. I think it is the same.
All of these stories will be lost like tears in the rain.
Like tears in the rain.
I've been actually to put a plug in for our podcast sponsor. I have today been writing the video script on Blade Runner for the next talk in the course of advanced sci-fi and fantasy writing.
Because we spoke about this before, and you've been coming at this a few times in the past. I'm not quite, been working on it. I remember saying something like that. You've been working on it a while.
I have. I've been thinking about the movie Blade Runner, I guess, for about 20 years and trying to understand it more, probably like 25, 26 years, maybe since I saw it as a teenager. I try to think, what was that about? Because I don't really think I got it at first. So now I'm doing 2 video essays for the sci-fi writing course on Blade Runner and Blade Runner 2049. So people who enroll on the course will be able to get into those video essays and the workshops that go with them, where we're looking at writing Jungian archetypes and how they appear in science fiction stories.
Yeah. Now, without giving much away, do you think that Blade Runner has a Jungian thing going on, or do you think it's sort of is its own thing?
My thesis of the essay, which I've been trying to capture in words, so now I'll try and do it live in the podcast, is that Blade Runner and Blade Runner 2049 are both about how we liberate ourselves as human beings. And the first one is like a Christian message of fear and overcoming fear. Right. And the second one is more psychological and about discovering the self by contacting your Jungian archetypes.
Oh, so all the characters he's meeting along the way are Jungian archetypes that sort of...
In 2049, definitely. That every character, every major character is a different Jungian archetype.
Yeah.
And not to give it away, but it gives it away what my thesis is. The is it Ryan Gosling?
Yes.
The Mr. Gosling character, the android character, is not the center of the story.
Ooh.
The protagonist is one of the other characters. It's a hidden protagonist, as it is in the first Blade Runner movie as well.
Yes,
That's as much as I'm telling you. Though you have to enroll.
Yeah.
You have to enroll on the podcast sponsor, which there'll be a link to it wherever you're watching.
That's that's intriguingly mysterious. And but
what was I talking about to get there? Blade Runner. The stories. The stories have been lost.
The stories have been lost. Yes. Yeah. But these things rise again. You know.
Well, kind of lost, because actually my first thought about Ben Bova was that he was always the science fiction writer I saw in secondhand bookshops. There'd always be a line of Ben Bova's.
Yeah,
line of Ben Bova's on there.
He was very much like that. He'd go in himself and drop them off. Famously, he'd stop in the Utah charity shop in Utah and just leave them there in a big box.
Well, do you remember the Black Cat bookshop?
In
Leicester.
Oh.
Back when Leicester had bookshops, there was a big secondhand one there, and that was one. I would always go in there when I first moved to Leicester and look at the sci-fi section, and there would always be lots of Ben Bova.
Bova, yeah. But I'll tell you, I would give my eye teeth to have loads of books in charity shops. It would be a sign of sold a lot, you know. That would be my moment of delight if I walked into a shop and saw one of mine. But it's all Bova.
Well, the real sign of success is if you can't find your books in the charity bookshop. So, because those are the people nobody ever. Yeah, that's it. You've ascended to the top.
Not a chance.
It's very rare to find a lot of Terry Pratchett in a bookshop, because people tend to keep the Terry Pratchett's, even though
it's always the early ones, isn't it? Like the Colour of Magic, the ones that are a bit,
and the ones with the not as good covers.
Yeah. Oh yeah, not as good as the classic ones. Yes, yeah.
So the good writers, you find them in the charity shop. The great writers, you never quite. They're hard to track down in there. Hard to track down. But really, there's
someone out there there's probably someone out there who only buys books from charity shops, and they swear by Catherine Cookson and Ben Bova. And they'll grow up and they'll mix the two in their own writing, and we get to see that. I'm excited for them.
Well, the other thing about Ben Bova is that basically, like I think his tenure at Analog as the editor at Analog was like definitely most of the 80s. And so for that period of time, and it was decades long, basically to become a science fiction writer, you had to get past Ben Bova.
Whoa.
That was the routine. Science fiction. And if Ben Bova didn't like his stuff, you weren't going to become a science fiction writer, because you had to get published in Analog, and then you might get a break in with like the New York science fiction literati. Might pick you up.
Yeah, that's I suppose a better Ben Bova than Campbell, I guess. Your chances are, from what I gather, he wasn't exactly revolutionary. It wasn't like Punk when he became editor, Punk at the Enemy or whatever, when he became editor. But he was generally quite progressive and sort of pushed it forwards. But still, it must have been crazy in those days. It just, that sort of funneling to a few points you've got to get through, isn't there? It's in those sort of pre-internet days. I can't imagine it. And you wouldn't know how to get anything to, like, trying to find out about how to present a story, as in, the whole manuscript, standard manuscript. Without the internet, you have to know someone who knows that, or how would you know that? Unless it's in a book somewhere, or
you realize it must have been really, the science fiction world was a very small club and hard to get into. You probably you had to go along to conventions, and then maybe you'd meet someone who'd give you a few clues about how to get in.
Yeah. it's like being Indiana Jones or something. Just trying to find all these cryptic clues to the answer or whatever. It's mind-boggling.
I remember when I first started sending out short stories, like in my late teens and early 20s, and the magazines then, you still had to send paper. You had to print out a story on paper, and then you had to buy United States postal coupons, and you had to put those in your submission so that they could send your rejection back to you. And it took like 82 years to get a rejection.
A full Bova lifespan. I caught the very end of that. I think it was I'll name and shame. I think it was Fantasy and Science Fiction Magazine, or whatever it is.
As far as I know, they still ask you to send stories on paper. Even they have changed.
Yeah, because I'd try and get those what they're called, the United Airlines postback thingies to put in. I go to the post office and they go, "What? What do you want?" Get back to the 1950s.
Oh, you must be a science fiction writer, mustn't you?
Oh, trying to get published in FNSF, is it? Yeah. That really was the arse end of that. But they must take internet copies now. Surely.
Actually, I'm going to go on a slight tangent into another story. So I was one day with my my much adored ex-girlfriend Lydia, who was a poet. We were going to the Poetry Cafe in London. We come down from Leicester, and we were lost in Covent Garden, trying to find the Poetry Cafe. So I ran in and I asked the guy behind the counter, "Can you tell us where the Poetry Cafe is?" I said, "Oh yeah, we're all poets here, mate." And then the two other guys behind the counter said, "Yeah, all poets, all of us." And then he told me where the Poetry Cafe was.
Whoa! Oh, were they being ironic? Were they? Yeah.
No, well, I think maybe they were all poets, because what job would you get as a poet other than working on the underground?
Yeah, that's true. You see a lot of human life as well. So why not? It's or did they all think they were being that all three were poets, but they thought the other two were joking and being sort of going, yeah, mate.
Well, because at first I thought they were being ironic, but then I thought, actually, I think maybe they're being serious.
Yeah,
maybe they are all poets there, and now we're all science fiction writers.
Yeah, yeah. Whatever, all three of them are. It was Patrick Rothfuss, one of them, wasn't it? So wow, crazy days.
Another piece of news. Another piece of news for the week. The 37th Damon Knight Grandmaster of Science Fiction is none other than Naylor Hopkinson.
Wow, who I believe taught you at Clarion.
She did, indeed, yeah. Because we did Clarion last episode, we mentioned it, and I went in 2008, and we had Neil Gaiman, Kelly Link, John Patrick Kelly, Jeff Ryman, and Jeff Ryman is like a genius of science fiction. Yeah. There is no more genius writer. Marianne Mohanraj and Naylor Hopkinson, and now Naylor Hopkinson, who may not be very well known to some people who even who read a lot of science fiction, unfortunately, is now much better known as the 37th Grandmaster of science fiction. That's because I want writers like Naylor, because Naylor's books and short stories are wonderful, but they're still probably very hard to find. Like if you go into a local bookshop, assuming a local bookshop hasn't been locked down. But you can find Ready Player 2 spread all over the internet, and I think that's just totally topsy-turvy. I think Rolling Stone should be giving positive reviews to Naylor Hopkinson's books, and maybe they will be now.
Yeah. All I can suggest is giving one of her books to the guy who writes Ready Player One, and then she'll probably feature in it fighting a transformer with Tolstoy. I don't know.
Or Naylor could give him a writing lesson.
Well,
maybe.
yeah, that would be doing us all a favour. What was she? Was she a good teacher? Did you think? Which was
Yeah, I had, because in my first story at Clarion. So, for people who don't know, you go to Clarion for 6 weeks, which is a pretty long time to do a sci-fi writing workshop, and each week you have a story workshopped. So you write a story every week and you get it workshopped. And I brought a half-written story with me that I finished there, and all of the characters were black.
Right.
And they were speaking like black street slang. And the story just got absolutely savaged by my group, who I love. I'm not blaming them for it, for having a completely black cast. But then Nalo came along in like the 5th week, because we had Nalo and Jeff for weeks 5 and 6.
Oh, yeah, 2 people, don't you?
And in my one-to-one meeting with her, she said, carry on writing those kind of stories. You did it well. Which I thought was good. I felt slightly exonerated.
Nana Hopkinson's African American. Did we mention that?
African American, yeah, a writer of color.
Yeah. So well, that's great. So she just gave you the courage of your convictions. Were the characters Black British or African American, or do you remember?
Black African American.
You see that? Yeah.
So in 2008, that was still like an emerging issue, I think.
Yes.
And then it was more in the early kind of 2010s that we started talking a lot about, what would the terms be? Representation, cultural appropriation, crossing these kind of boundaries, which has become highly politicized. My personal feeling is that you should write whatever you're going to write, and you should talk to people about that when you put it out into the world as well, and be prepared for whatever comes back to you. You know, you're a writer, so it's your job to take those responses from people if they're out there. Yeah,
you got to take you got to be responsible to a certain degree, haven't you? It's It's an odd one, Ryan, because you got to be sensitive enough to write, but you got to be tough enough to not just take criticism, but something like that. That kind of level of thing. You got to be prepared for both and roll with the punches.
Well, everyone they say that Clarion breaks writers so that it can build them stronger again. And my week 1 story was my breaking point.
Yeah,
because many people did cry at Clarion. I won't name them. I'm obviously too British to do that, but I was literally curled up on my bunk in the UCSD dorm, like in a state of shock.
Really?
After the session. Did it make me a better writer? I don't know, but I would definitely recommend Clarion to anyone who wants to attend it.
I suppose you're in a new country. It's 2008. You're trying to be open and write new things, and then but it's just a tough lesson, I guess, isn't it?
But it was great to get to talk about it with some really good writers. It was, Clarion's an intense experience. But congratulations, Nalo, for taking the highest honor that the science fiction field has to offer. Yeah.
It sounds cool as well, doesn't it? Grandmaster
does sound quite cool. It does sound like you're a Jedi.
Yeah, Grandmaster. Yeah, even the Damon Knight bit. That's kind of a cool name. He's got the knight and the. What do you know? What do you get for it? Do you get like a medal or a suit of armor?
I think it's simply the honor of the position as a Grandmaster. And when new science fiction authors step out of line, a crack squad of Grandmasters are dispatched to like
Mandalorians
to put them back in their place. It being a little bit like the secret wizarding world of Harry Potter, which Johnny Depp is no longer a member of, having now been replaced by the far superior Mads Mikkelsen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Did you take sides in the whole Johnny Amber affair?
I kind of just kept my head out of it. It was just so ugly. But I mean, they've ruled against him, haven't they? So I guess she's right. I don't know. I think it's just a toxic relationship, isn't it? Really. Some of them just go like, and it's just stop it, you know. He's obviously in a bad place, isn't he? And he needs to sort himself out. He's spending 10 grand on. Well, he spent like 100 grand on wine, and he said, "No, I spend more than that. What are you talking about?" And he's looks like he's in free fall. It's I'm an admirer of his early work, but
Edward Scissorhands.
Yeah, Edward Scissorhands, all of that, you know. But yeah. But he's got wide range, hasn't he? But I think Mads Mikkelsen's just got depth, and you can't. There's no replacing depth, really. You can be as wide as you like, but you know,
he's played at least one crazy evil wizard already.
Oh yeah.
In what's the Marvel wizarding movie?
Oh, Doctor Strange,
which I liked. I liked a lot, despite the fact that I literally feel a little bit sick whenever what's his name, the English actor Benedict. Whenever Benedict Cumberbatch appears on the screen,
Bang Cabblepatch,
yeah. I feel like the anger rising within me at him.
Why?
I don't know, just something about Cumberbatch. Annoys me.
Yeah.
Admittedly, it might be jealousy. We are like essentially the same age, and he's a huge Hollywood star.
Yeah.
And both English.
I'm beginning to hate him now, man.
But yeah, because these reboot movies, to me, I quite like the Harry Potter movies. I think I've probably seen them all. I've tried reading the books and didn't get into them. But the reboot movies are just dire.
Yeah.
I tried watching the second one, and it was just terrible.
Really? Yeah. I guess Rowling had one good idea, and then you think that's the case with Harry Potter?
I've always quite admired J.K. Rowling as a person.
Right.
Like when you see the early interviews with her, and she's she's very intelligent and super intelligent, really very, very smart woman. And the story is that the reason she's been able to get so rich from the Harry Potter novels is that, and she had an Arts Council grant to write them, and that had run out. And she's a single mother living in Edinburgh. She's out of money. She's offered a book deal eventually after sending it to all of the publishers. And she sends the book deal back and specifies different clauses, which allowed her to keep lots more of the rights, which is why she was able to then, exploit the film rights and all those kind of things, and made her so rich. So that's a ballsy thing to do as a single mother with no money.
Yeah, I just publishers. I just sort of doff my cap. All right, sure. They're like lords to me.
But I think fame, huge fame, has obviously done bad things to Johnny Depp. Because I think
it hasn't helped J.K. Rowling either, has it?
Indeed, yeah, and I think that's the point I was heading towards. Because like, if you're someone like Johnny Depp, and for your whole life, people have just been telling you how good looking you are, and you just make hundreds of millions of dollars, but then eventually at some point, you start getting a bit older, and you go crazy because, unlike other mortals who've been exposed to this, you've been kind of cushioned away from it. And I think maybe J.K. Rowling now has been too much in her own ivory tower.
Yeah.
Because at the bottom of our last podcast, where we mentioned J.K. Rowling, one of our growing fan base said, no, J.K. Rowling was not anti-trans, and put the other side of her argument. But my feeling about that was, whatever her argument was, I still feel like she was saying this fundamentally to get attention.
Right. Yeah.
And that's far, far below someone of her power and influence in society. She should be much more self-aware than that.
Yeah, you got responsibilities, and it's we're talking about a minority of people. Trans people, have it terrible. Look at the rates of murder and whatever. It's like, what is she playing at? Even, I guess she's just misinformed, or just a lot of these anti-trans, like the vehement anti-trans people, they latch on to celebrities, don't they, and just start feeding them stuff. And I think they just go off. I mean, I'm giving her the benefit of the doubt here. I try to. I'm that kind of person, but yeah, it's weird. It hasn't helped her write good books anyway ever since.
Indeed.
So these things carry their own stress, I guess.
Couple of stories to close us out here.
Yeah, sure.
Tolkien's house has been placed up for sale, and I saw the photos and I thought, blimey, he was a well-paid academic, because that was a big house. He had there.
Absolutely. He probably had a few Sam Gamgees in his garden, garden.
Clipping away.
Yeah. That's I tell you what should do. The SFWA should buy it and make it the Grand Palace for the Knights of the Grandmasters.
Because it has about 40 bedrooms from the look of it. So
there you go.
All of the Grandmasters could live there.
Yeah.
In Tolkien's house.
Wait, what was Nalo again? Was she the 58th Grandmaster?
37th.
Oh, so
and of course, sadly, many of them have passed away.
Oh, so a couple of rooms for everyone. That'd be great, yeah. It's probably happening now. It's probably like George R. R. Martin introduced there and go, okay, we keep the key under the brick, Dale, also. Just don't tell anyone. You can use it Wednesdays. That's
Samuel Delaney making breakfast
for
everybody in the mornings.
Yeah. Wow.
I think we should do a Kickstarter for that.
Yeah.
The home of the Grandmasters of Sci-Fi in the House of Tolkien.
Yeah, sort of like a Big Brother reality show we were talking about, or like a sort of a fanfic thing, or what?
Yeah, definitely live streamed 24 hours a day. Live from the Tolkien house.
All voting each other out, and oh my God. Because I mean, the writers and speculative fiction writers particularly are all quite eccentric on their daily life or whatever they're doing, so they'd all be rubbing each other up the wrong way, wouldn't they? I'd pay good money to see that. That'd be great.
I'm sure many people in fandom would, as they would probably pay good money for a top of the pops of 80s television theme music, which I posted to the group about this week because I happened to stumble across like a Swedish synthesizer expert. I have no idea if they're Swedish. I just made that up. But they've done an amazing cover of the Airwolf theme tune. And it just made me think that you had this period of just amazing theme music on otherwise terrible television shows.
Yeah, they put all the money on the soundtrack. Okay, the rest is just
Well, I asked the question, why were they so good? And actually, one of the long-term members of the group, and he's one of the moderators of the group as well, and he's one of my favorite creators of RPGs. And I'm saying this because his name has just fallen out of my head. So I'm so sorry that I can't remember your name, good online friend. But he explained it completely, because there was like a radical underground synthesizer scene basically in Los Angeles at the time in other parts of America. So they were making, they were taking these new synthesizers and making great music on it. And then they saw dollar signs, and these guys who'd like developed how to use the synth in really great ways started selling it as pop music and as 80s synth theme tunes as well. So that's where the great era of Airwolf, Knight
80.
Rider.
Knight Rider.
Yeah,
Knight Rider, very electro. Yeah.
Knight Rider. I mean, that is one of the all-time great pieces of music. I mean, how many times has that been sampled in hip hop or elsewhere now?
Even a banger, sort of Indian pop music pops up there. It's amazing. I mean, Airwolf's amazing. If I was starting a new country, I would make the Airwolf theme the national anthem. In fact, if South Sudan's the newest country in the world, South Sudan, if you haven't got a national anthem yet.
Although I might advise against it, because you might find a fleet of super-powered helicopters flying over your national borders to take you out for copyright infringement.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah, make sure you got the copyright first, but in theory, that's. Wow.
I believe we've covered all of the stories I got listed here, and we've been going for like an hour and 10 minutes.
Oh my God! Yeah, we've done beats by the week's events, I think, and
it has been. It's been a rather chaotic week in sci-fi. Yes. Really, I'm glad that things are happening as the world comes back out of the COVID lockdowns now.
Yeah, as these vaccines get around or whatever. Yeah,
hopefully we'll have some cinemas open.
That's final bit of news there. That was Warner Brothers. They're going to stream everything, aren't they? Did you hear about that?
Yeah. Do you think this is like the last nail in the cinema, or are we just going to be straight to streaming?
Could be. I mean, TVs in houses are cinema size now, aren't they? And it beats having to sit next to some guy you don't know with popcorn and some kids kicking the back of your seat in the cinema. It's not a great experience, cinema. It can be, but when it's not, it's bloody horrible. You know what I mean? Maybe
in my travels around the world, I've had some great cinema experiences. Like the cinema in Bali is very much a family affair, and families turn up with dinner and everything else, and like pack into the cinema and just talk all the way through the movie.
All right, so yeah. Oh, that's a great. I'm thinking, is that because the cinemas have got great air conditioning? Is it like a summer thing where it's quite hot?
It's just a much more family centric culture, as in many parts of Asia. And the cinema experience in the UK, I mean, I had stopped going for a long time before I left the UK because it's very expensive. As Mark Commode makes the point, the projections are not very good because they're all automated. And it just feels, actually, UK cinemas have always felt a bit bleak.
Yeah,
I have done for a long time now, because they're all out like in like retail parks and stuff. It's just not a very pleasant experience. So I can see the British people like maybe just streaming their TV from now.
Yeah, that's it. Keep indoors, Yeah. That's true. I don't know. I find I prefer going to the cinema on my own, to be honest. I'm the weirdo at the cinema because I don't see any point. If you got your mates and it's like, let's go see a film, you're not speaking to each other and you're to the sides of each other. Why? Why do people go with their mates to see a film? I guess there's a chat afterwards, but really, you could be sat in a pub, couldn't you, or go bowling or something?
I think we need to reinvent cinema in some way to bring it back as a communal experience, because that's what we need. There's so many ways for us to be cut off in our little houses, especially at the moment. And what we need is Cinema Paradiso back. We need real cinema, even if it is loud and people talking, that we can bond over stories again.
Yes, that'd be good. Kind of get that feel like the Shakespearean theatre with everyone. Yeah, okay. Maybe just play films at the what you call it, the Shakespeare Theatre in what's it called, the Rose? Is it? I can't remember now.
Globe.
The Globe.
London
sorry,
Globe.
The Rose we haven't rebuilt. Sorry, we'll rebuild the Rose and we'll play. Was it Begin Player One? What's it called again? Ready Player One.
Ready Player One.
Is that what it's called? Yeah. We'll just play that constantly and we'll slag it off. While Justin Tudor Yeah.
We can put poor Ernie Cline in the stocks and throw throw Elizabethan mushrooms, tomatoes.
Yeah. Yeah, like a Mario, the mushrooms. Yeah, there you go. It's a bit of a computer related thing there. Yeah, why not? Bring back old entertainment, mix it with the new. You know.
Okay, I'm calling an end. I'm calling an end to this now,
yeah.
Jim. Before we go any further down the rat channel. So this has been the Week in Sci-Fi with me, Damon Walter, Jim Warad, signing out.
Bye bye.